Is your speech organized, or are you just winging it? What's up, world? What's up, free thinkers? It's Terrence. Thank you for checking me out, giving me a chance, seeing what this is all about. Now, I always used to be anti-memorized speeches, because I would always tell, like, if a speech was like robotic, if you never gave me any of your personality at all, or if you didn't like giving your speech at all, like I could actually tell so much from an organized, memorized speech. And I realized after time that after speaking this weekend at Dekaney High School, shout out to Dekaney, an organized, memorized speech isn't bad as long as you don't memorize everything. I want to say that you should be not over-prepared, not under-prepared, and there really isn't just enough, but I feel like you should memorize your speech 80 to 90%. I say 80 to 90% because that leaves some room for growth. That leaves some room to actually give the audience more of your raw, natural personality. Because sometimes when you speak, at least when I speak, speaking as a beginner, a lot of times we may go too fast. This past Saturday when I spoke, I thought I was speaking to an audience of middle school through high school kids. And that's another thing. You may think that you know your audience, or you have your audience prepared, or your speech is prepared for your audience. And then you get thrown a curveball, and I realized that when I got there, it was a classroom full of teachers that teach middle school through high school. Completely different demographic, completely different message. So was I supposed to wing it? Or was I still supposed to do my memorized speech? And I did my memorized speech, and I talked too fast. I was trying to get everything done. I actually wrote down topics that I wanted to speak about, and I had it on a little index card that I put on one of the tables, and I was working the room, walking around everyone, but I walked by that certain table that had all the topics on it, and I was like, I gotta get this one, only got 45 minutes, gotta get this one. Long story short, I think I probably ran out of my memorized material probably 25, 30 minutes. And so I had all this room to speak. And a lot of times I found out that when I run out of time or I'm panicking, I tend to repeat myself. And I tend to make it pretty obvious that I'm just winging it. This is why I say it's important to have a list of taglines, because if you talk about your taglines, then you kind of have some fillers, you can have something to fill in the gap with your taglines. So I was starting to go down through some of my taglines, and I was able to get another 5 minutes out of that, but it still kind of wasn't enough. So I had to, on the spot, come up with other memorized. I had to speak about things that I didn't really plan on speaking about. And that's another thing. If you're a beginner speaker, you may very well end up saying things that wasn't on paper. You may very well end up saying things that wasn't planned. Does that mean you weren't organized? No. It simply means you ran out of material. My favorite speaker, Les Brown, has been telling the exact same speech, the exact same stories for decades. Not years, decades. And to me, he is the best speaker ever. He's the greatest speaker in the world. Why? Because his story, because his speech is so impactful, because it's so great. And just think about it. How crazy and how great must that speech be to give the exact same speech, to get paid so much for the exact same speech? They're going into it. The event planner knows what they're going to hear, right? The audience knows what they're going to hear if they've heard about Les Brown. Les Brown knows that he's going to say the same thing. You know, just think about that. How many people are getting paid to give the exact same speech over and over and over and over and over again for decades? I can't name a single person. So yeah, I started to think about it, and while I was anti-memorized speech, I think it's good to have a memorized speech. But you don't want to memorize everything. I've seen Les Brown twice, and I've known 97 to 99% of every single thing that he was going to say. I'd already heard it before, but it was still great. It's one thing to see it online or read it and then actually hear it and see it in person. It's crazy. And so I want to wrap up this video with this video where I personally believe it is best to memorize 80 to 90% of your speech. Have a solid foundation of your speech. You know, we always want to be organized, even if you're not necessarily winging it, but if you're going off the cuff, you still want to be organized. And if you are going to go off the cuff, if you are deciding to not memorize your speech, you may want to leave it up to Q&A, right? Have the audience dictate where the energy is going. Have the audience dictate where that flow is going. One, they're getting what they want. They're getting what they need. Two, you wouldn't have had to memorize much of anything. And three, they're gonna leave knowing that, hey, I got my questions answered, or hey, I didn't think of something that way. It kind of keeps you on your toes, gets you ready, and perhaps you can use that question and that answer in your upcoming speech. So with that being said, you are your outcome. Y'all take it easy. Peace. What's up, world? What's up, free thinkers? I'm Terrence, and thank you for checking this out. You don't want to plug me in. See, if you amplify my thoughts, these words will start to mend and bridge the gap from where you begin to end and set a foundation so you can grow a limb, having you feel inside what it's like to win. Go to youareyouroutcome.com. Check y'all out later. Peace.